What is good? What is up? It's Jordan, Texans Thoughts, and I'm back with another film breakdown. Today, we're showing why Kenyon Green was the pick at 13th overall and how he is the perfect offensive lineman for Pep Hamilton's offense. If you guys enjoy, please do hit the like button. Subscribe for more content. We're on the road to 6K subs and we're so close. We're getting closer every day and I appreciate y'all's support. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't and comment down below who you want to see in the next film breakdown. Alright. Let's get into the film on Kenyon Green because the film don't lie. Let's start with Green's strengths, and first and foremost, he brings a nasty attitude in the trenches and the raw power that our O-line has lacked for years. Green is a bully as a run blocker and can be depended on to create push on his solo blocks. At nearly 6'4", 323 pounds with 34-inch arms, Green is an O-line coach's dream and the ideal guard prospect for a gap/power run team if you were to, build one in a lab. Pep Hamilton and George Warhop have always utilized a power run game and are building one in Houston. So let's see what that means in terms of blocking concepts and how that fits with Green's skill set. A gap, or sometimes called a man running scheme, means each blocker is assigned a man to block rather than a zone like you see on inside or outside zone. On this play versus Florida, Green needs to block this 3-tech defensive tackle and drive him vertically down the field instead of horizontally like on zones. The idea is to get the running back north-south as quickly as possible and hit a designed gap, rather than stretch the defense east-west like during zone and have the running back make reads and choose the right hole. To execute this scheme, you need maulers with raw power to simply bully defenders and push them off their spots. So that base block is one of the primary blocks we'll ask Green to make, and the natural progression from that is called a double team. It essentially works the same as a solo base block, but has two offensive linemen executing their own base blocks on just one defender and trying to push them vertically. It requires good teamwork and technique on top of the aforementioned raw power. That's an important thing to note, because Green has had a good amount of success on double teams in college, but it was mainly because of his brute strength, rather than refined fundamentals. Green gets the job done here and pushes the DT a few yards off the ball, but he plays with really high pad level, which is why he only pushes the DT a few yards instead of, 5 or more. I'll touch more on this in the improvement section of the video, but after the base block and the double team, another extremely important type of block to get used to is called a pull. Instead of blocking the man in front of him, Green is going to take a step backward and work horizontally across the line of scrimmage and block this unblocked defensive end. By leaving the defensive end unblocked for a moment, it allows the right tackle to double team this defensive tackle number 17 and then climb up to linebacker number 30 at the second level. By blocking the first level of the D-line and the second level of the linebackers, it gives running back Isaiah Spiller a lot more room to run. These pulling plays are a staple of every power run game, and Pep loved to call them when he was the OC for the Colts from 2013 to 2015. I think Green's raw power and ability to make contact on these unblocked defenders makes him the best candidate on the Texans to be used as a puller, and I'm expecting to see some pancakes early on in his career. The best part of these power runs with the puller is how you can use them to set up the play-action passing game. Texas A&M had a pretty strong run game, and their dominance in the trenches would force defenses to sell out for the run. When that happens, they would make it look like they were pulling for a run play, but actually setting up a play-action pass. Green has a difficult job here to block in space, but he doesn't even always need to be perfect. It's more about the trickery involved on the play action that fools the defense and can lead to explosive plays downfield. Another element that Pep Hamilton has preached about when discussing their offensive identity. That brings us to Green's pass protection skills, which according to the stats, were locked down in college as he only allowed 1 sack over his last 2 seasons. I think his best asset in pass protection for the Texans specifically will be his awareness versus blitzes and stunts. These defensive schematics have consistently given Houston issues over the years, and I'm sure the coaching staff love to see Green's instincts in these situations. He's really good at sniffing out blitzes and completely shuts down the smart concept from Florida. The Gators are trying to overload the left side of the O-line and send 3 rushers for only 2 blockers. Typically, when there's a 3-tech defensive tackle lined up on the outside shoulder of the guard, The guard needs to block that defensive tackle one-on-one. It's a tough task that requires nearly perfect execution, but Green shows the instincts to understand that the DT isn't even rushing normally versus Green. Instead, he's trying to draw Green to the inside and away from the other two rushers. That would create a 2-on-1 and put the left tackle in an impossible position, leading to giving up a sack. But none of that happens because Green understands that the DT was more of a decoy and instantly shoots his eyes over to the two rushers coming from his left. He picks up the defensive end who slants inside, which allows the left tackle to pick up the blitzing linebacker. This may look like a really simple play, but that's what it should look like when it's executed well. And it's something that, Max Sharping, Justin McCray, and pretty much every other guard we played recently has struggled with big time. The last strength to Green's game is his versatility. And I know, that's a bit of a triggering concept with how Bill O'Brien misused the concept of versatility, but hopefully this coaching staff can learn from previous mistakes and play players at their best positions and keep it at that. Just keep it simple. For Green, that is definitely at guard. Now, he started 17 games at left guard and 15 at right guard, compared to just 1 at left tackle and 2 at right tackle. I would say Green's versatility is more useful in, an emergency situation. He's clearly best and most comfortable at left guard, but if injuries occur, then he can fill in when needed at other positions. He shouldn't be trained per se at multiple positions like Titus Howard was and moved around often, at least early in his career. He has shown flashes at every position but center, don't get me wrong, but by keeping him at one position, he can fine-tune the technical aspects of offensive line play. And that's something that he and pretty much everyone needs to do. Green brings a lot to the Texans in terms of his raw power in the run game, awareness in pass protection, and versatility. But his full impact early on, may be a bit inconsistent because of inconsistent technique. Similar to what I said about Derek Stingley in my most recent film breakdown, Green is not going to be able to just rely on being bigger and stronger than his competition, not in the NFL. So what is he going to need to improve upon? Starting in the run game, Green needs to work on not dropping his head when initiating a block. Versus Will Anderson in 2021, he wants to get low to win the leverage battle, but bends by the waist instead of the knees. This is going to get him embarrassed in the NFL. Now, there's another issue with this rep, and it's Green's hand usage. All throughout his tape, you'll see that he can be slow to engage, and he'll strike with low and wide hands rather than aiming for the chest of his defender. Since he's late to strike Anderson and shoots his hands out wide like a hug, he exposes his chest and allows Anderson to win the inside hand placement and thus toss him aside. Green can work on having his hands in his holsters, ready and waiting around his hips, rather than down below at his knees. This will allow Green to strike quicker and make first contact more often. Another thing Green can work on as a run blocker is his positioning on double teams. Sprinkled throughout his tape are reps where he just doesn't move defenders as much as you'd like. This isn't because Green isn't powerful, he is, but if he doesn't stay hip to hip with his teammate, then he's not going to generate maximum power and can allow defenders to split the double team. Additionally, sometimes Green tries to take over the double team all by himself. Ideally, each blocker makes contact on half of the defender as they align hip to hip and create a wall to push the defender vertically. But on this rep, Green positions himself like it's a solo base block and doesn't leave any room for his teammate to help him on the double. Thus, the left tackle ends up stepping on Green's heels and Green can't sustain the block. It's little technique improvements like these that can make Green a more consistently impactful player at the NFL level. I'm optimistic about Green, making these refinements because he's a young player with plenty of time and room to grow. Plus, if he's allowed to just play one position and get used to his teammates around him, let's say he slots in at left guard and he's got in between Laremy Tunsil and Justin Britt, then I think he'll have two established veterans to build chemistry and cohesion with. And that's a luxury he didn't always have at Texas A&M. Since they wanted to utilize his versatility, move him all around the line so often, the Aggies had countless offensive line configurations over Green's career. Hopefully the Texans do not do the same and instead allow, Tunsil, Green, Britt, Can, and Howard to work as the starting five and build chemistry and teamwork that is so needed to thrive in the trenches. While there will likely be maybe a slightly rough transition period as Green refines his technique, I think he can be a multi-year starter at guard and potentially make a few Pro Bowls. This is a player we desperately needed. He fits Pep Hamilton's scheme perfectly and allows us to play some bully ball in the trenches. I think Green will help form that tough identity the Texans want to play with, and I just want to preach patience with his development. Alright, that's going to do it for the video. If you guys enjoyed, please do hit the like button, subscribe for more content, and comment down below your thoughts on the breakdown. Take care, everyone, and remember, the film don't lie!